everybody! Welcome back to Bentley House. I'm Ara, and today we're working again on the cardboard house. Last time we made some living room furniture. We made Miss Periwinkle Nightshade, who is the owner of the house. Today we are going to be working in the upstairs bedroom and making this 3-piece bedroom suite. The first piece is going to be the half-tester canopy bed, and the second is Vanity with opening drawers as requested. Some of you guys wanted some opening drawers. And the third piece is going to be this little rug to go with all of our furniture. I'm going to make all of this, and then in a separate video I'm going to show you how I made this rocking chair, because if I put it in this video it would just be way too long. You will not have to wait a full week for that, so look for that this weekend. Thank you again to Paula Storm, who helped me make digital patterns for you guys. You can find them in the description box below. The first pattern we're going to be working on is the bed. You're going to need this piece cut out of 2 layers of cardboard. You're going to need this piece also cut from 2 layers of cardboard, and when I do my things with 2 layers I make sure the corrugation is going in opposite directions for each layer. You also need this piece cut out of 2 layers of cardboard. This piece is 1 layer of cardboard, and make sure that the corrugation direction matches the one on the pattern. That's very important. You're also going to need several long strips of chipboard. You're going to need 10 of the longer pieces and 10 of the slightly shorter pieces, and just look at your pattern for the sizes that you need to cut them in. The next is 2 of these large circles. These are optional but add to the decoration, cut from chipboard, and 2 of these smaller circles also cut from chipboard. You will also need these 2 pieces cut from chipboard. The long thin one is its own shape, and the thicker one is the same exact shape of the one we cut out of cardboard previously. So that may be a little confusing, but it's that same exact shape. Now I took this first piece and I measured a line that is a 1/2 inch from the bottom, and I'm going to glue the longer bed piece just underneath that line. This is attaching the base part of the bed to the headboard. On the footboard, which is this weird shape, I drew a line exactly through the middle, and I'm going to glue the bed just underneath that line as well. So now I should have the headboard, the center, and the footboard attached, and I can go back with hot glue and add any additional support that I would like to. Now I'm going to take this little rectangle of cardboard that had the corrugation designated going like up and down, and I am going to score through the top layer of the cardboard so that it can make an arch. And this is what's going to create the canopy part of our bed. Once it's done, I can put it onto the face of the very top of the headboard and make sure that it fits, and then glue each side down. After that's glued down, you will see that the canopy part, you can see the slits where I cut it, and you can go back with your hot glue and kind of like make it lay down a little bit. After that's done, this is the piece I told you you cut the same exact size as the cardboard. This is basically going to cover up those lines that we just created by cutting and scoring the cardboard. This is an optional step. You don't have to do this if you don't want to, but it does cover up those score lines. So you just fit it on there, make sure that it covers the entire thing, and glue it on. The next piece is the skinnier piece of chipboard, and this just creates a little decorative lip so that it just looks a little fancier, I guess. So I'm just going to glue that in the center of the one I previously glued. Once that's done, I'm going to grab these circles. First, the larger circle, and I'm going to eyeball it by centering it in the center of the footboard. I'm using tacky glue for this because hot glue grabs really quickly, and if I don't set it down where it's supposed to be right away, I may mess it up. So tacky glue or some kind of PVA glue is a little bit easier, that you can still slide it around until the glue dries completely. I'm now gluing the smaller circle on top of the larger circle, creating this decorative medallion at the base of the bed. I'm also adding one on the headboard so that the 2 match. I'm eyeballing this one as well to try and get it as much in the center as possible. You can put it there, a little bit lower, a little bit higher, wherever you like for your bed. Now I'm reaching for the taller rectangles. I should have 10 of these. I'm going to glue 5 of them together to create one bed post. After I have all 5 of them together, I'm going to let them dry completely so that they are flat and stay as straight as possible to actually look like a bed post. I'm going to be making 2 of these, and they should have 5 layers of chipboard each. These are going to be the posts that go on the headboard. I also marked at the bottom a 1/2 inch mark from the bottom. This is going to help me know where to glue them. I did this for the smaller ones as well, so now I have 4 bedposts, 2 long ones and 2 shorter ones. The 2 long ones, like I said, are going on the headboard, so I'm just going to add some hot glue and glue it onto the side. I'm going to line up that 1/2 inch mark from the bottom with the very bottom of the headboard. This is going to let me know that my bed is sitting correctly, and it's going to be straight and level once it is in my dollhouse. Make sure you double check all these measurements on your own bed, as sometimes when we make things by hand, our measurements get a little bit off. So just double check it's still working for your bed. You can see that my chipboard pieces are not lining up perfectly. That's okay, because we are going to be covering it with some joint compound, and you really won't be able to tell. It's the exact same steps for the footboard. I'm taking the shorter pieces, and they have been marked a 1/2 inch up from the bottom, and I'm making sure that that 1/2 inch mark lines up with the bottom of my footboard. On this piece, I wanted to show you that I did not cut it just exactly right. The way I'm going to fix this is I'm going to add glue just to the top of the footboard piece. I'm going to go ahead and glue it in place, but I'm not gluing the entire thing. I'm leaving that gap where I didn't cut it correctly, and I'm going to fill that gap with some hot glue. So you can still correct along the way if your pieces aren't cut exactly right. I just wanted to show you that how I'm going to fix that little mistake that I made. So now I have this entire piece glued together, and as I did with my living room set, I want to use some punches to make it a little bit more fancy, a little bit more interesting. These medallion spots are really great places where you can customize your bed. If you wanted to put a letter for a certain character that you are making this bed for, like I could put a P for Miss Periwinkle, who owns this house, but I didn't have any letters, so I decided to go ahead and use butterflies and leaves. The leaves match with my decor in the living room, and then butterflies because she also has wings. I figure she would like that. I do a double layer for each one of these pieces, and then I cover it with glue. This is going to kind of integrate these pieces into my cardboard. I'm now going to use some all-purpose joint compound to fill in the edges that I can see on the cardboard. I'm also going to use this on any bedposts that I feel are a little bit too uneven. Basically, it just helps you even out anything that you feel should be a little bit smoother. Once it's dry, I'm going to go over it with some sandpaper because it can leave like little chunks, so I just go back and smooth those down so that I have a nice surface to work on. Now I'm going to use the same mixture I used on the cardboard house. It's all-purpose joint compound mixed 50-50 with some white PVA glue. I'm using Elmer's glue, but you can use I've heard of people using some other types of glue, so just kind of do a test run with it if you're not quite sure if it's going to work before you put it on a finished piece. I'm going to be using a paintbrush for this because in our last furniture video I found that it makes a really nice smooth flat surface of this mixture, which eventually hardens the piece. I do 2 total coats of this over the entire bed. I think the dark wood furniture I did for the living room really went well with the feel of this house, so again I'm going to do some dark wood furniture for the top part of the house. To do this, I'm starting with a base coat of black acrylic, and then I'm going to go over it with a brown, and this just makes it a really nice dark chocolatey brown. Now I'm taking a lighter brown and I'm going to dry brush it over my piece. This is going to give it a little bit of a wood grain effect, and it's also going to pop out any of those details of those pieces we created with the cardstock punch outs. I did go back and forth quite a bit with the darker brown and the lighter brown until I liked how the finished paint job looked. I felt like you couldn't really see some of the details, and so I went back with a gold. I didn't do a base coat for the gold or anything, I just did the gold straight onto the brown, and I brushed it on top of those detail pieces and got some gold details, and I actually really like how that turned out. Now it's time to dress the bed. In order to do this, I'm taking one single piece of cardboard and I'm marking out a rectangle that's slightly smaller than what would fit in the bed frame. I'm going to cut that with my ruler and then test fit it. And the reason I need it to be slightly smaller is we're going to put some filler and some fabric on it, so I need to make sure that it's not sticking out too far from the bed. I had a subscriber named Jay of All Trades challenge me to use some plastic bags in my recycled miniatures, and so I decided to try and make the mattress with some plastic bags. Now these are recyclable bags, so I can put them in the recycle bin, but it was interesting to try and turn them into something. All I did was wrap them around the piece of cardboard that I cut and then slowly glue it down with the hot glue gun. I did cut off the handles because I felt like they would stick out too much, but overall I feel like I got a fairly flat mattress. Now I'm going to use some fabric to cover this mattress, and you can get fabric from a lot of different places. If you have some old shirts, I like to look for old clothing with small prints. I like to go to the clearance section of the fabric store. Anytime I see something with a small print, you just never know when it will come in handy. All I'm going to do here is wrap this mattress like a present. I'm not going to be worried too much how the bottom of it looks because it is going to be glued straight onto the bed. So I'm just adding glue wherever I feel like it needs it and then folding it over the side, making sure that it's fairly tight so I have a good mattress surface. This is going to be somewhat of a thin mattress, but I think because this is a very old fairy tale bed, I think it'll be okay. Once I like how it fits, I'm trying to decide. I think I wanted to make this a bed that hasn't quite been made correctly all the way. It might add to the story. So because part of the bed is going to be visible, I glued a little strip of fabric on it, maybe to look like a double mattress. I'm not quite sure what I was thinking there, but I do like how it ends up looking once the sheets are pulled back. Once I have that piece on there, I go ahead and glue the mattress down permanently with a little bit of hot glue. I found this piece, which I used for a costume a long time ago when we went to the Renaissance Festival, and I'm not quite sure which way it's supposed to go, if it's supposed to be pineapples and I have it the wrong way, or if it's supposed to be a wreath, I'm not sure. But what I'm going to do is take a little bit of glue and I'm going to create a hem all the way around the edge, and each time I create a hem, I'm going to be checking it with my bed to make sure that I have a piece that's large enough to cover the entire bed. Here I am trying to figure out which part of this fabric is supposed to be up. I decided to go with this way because I don't want it to look too much like pineapples. Once I have that figured out, I'm going to hold it down to the side, make sure that my cover is not going to go too far down to the floor, and I'm going to start very slowly gluing it in place. I'm starting with the bottom of the bed because I do know I want the top of it to have a little bit of the cover pulled back. So I'm starting from the bottom, which I do want to look mostly made. Once I have that the way that I want it, I'm going to go onto the sides and start gluing down the sides of the bed. This is going to force the bed to have the sheets look like they have weight to them. Fabric in miniature doesn't often have the correct weight, and so you have to force it with glue. Now I'm kind of playing with the top cover, making wrinkles to make it look like the blanket has been folded back and was not completely made at the end or the beginning of the day. Once I'm happy with the blanket, it's time to make a pillow. I cut two rectangles that were the same size, and I'm going to put them right sides together in order to start and make the pillow. I'm using a very small line of glue to start and make a hem on one side. I'm only going to do this on 3 sides of the pillow because I need one side open in order to flip it inside out. This is going to make the hem be on the inside and give it more of the correct finished pillow look. So now I have a little pocket with one side open, and I'm going to again use the plastic bags to fill the pillow. To do this, I'm just going to cut it into little shreds. I think this will help it more evenly disperse inside of the pillow, and I'm just going to stuff it inside. Now, if you're going to use a pillow that you're going to move around and you are going to play with, just know that this does make a very distinct plasticky noise. So if it's going to be still, this is a great option, but if you are going to use it, it may not be. I'm adding just a little bit of glue to that opening that I folded in, and then once I close it, I have a finished pillow. And besides the noise, I think it gives it a really realistic bounce and scrunch to the pillow. After I'm done with that, I kind of want it also to look a little messy on the bed, so I kind of scrunch it up to one side and then I tack it in place with some glue. Now that that part is done, I need to work on the canopy. Now I did think initially I was going to use this old Halloween decoration mesh, but I really didn't think it was working well with my vision of what I was thinking this bedroom furniture would look like. I think for like more of a haunted type bedroom suit, this would work really well because it was really tattery and kind of really wispy, but I think for Miss Periwinkle, she needed something a little fancier. I found this lace at an estate sale a long time ago, so what I did for this is I just cut the ribbon part off and I cut 2 equal rectangles of this lace, and all I'm going to do is shove it up into the canopy area and start gluing the very top of the lace into the U, making sure that each part of it stays on its own side. So the left side, I'm just gluing it to the center and all the way to the left, making sure that I don't glue anything on the right because the other part of the canopy will have to be glued there. Because this is the messy side of the bed, I decided to glue it back as if it had been pulled back for her to get out of the bed, and so it is glued pretty heavily to the headboard itself, keeping the lace back and showing the covers and the pillow part of the bed. Also, once I got to the top of the canopy, I decided to glue the very top down to the headboard itself, and this gave a lot more of a weighted look to the lace, as if it had been there for years and had started draping over the top of the canopy. Here you can see I'm gluing down the rest of the lace to the side of the bed so that when the bed sits on the floor, the lace will fan out on the floor. The other side of the bed was done very similarly, except I did not pull it back and I did not glue it as much to the headboard. I just glued one side and I let the other side kind of hang free. This looks like one side of the canopy is drawn and one side is not. And that's the finished bed for the cardboard house. Now we're going to move on to the vanity with the working drawers. We're just going to do a few pieces at a time. You need both of these pieces cut from a single layer of cardboard. Both of these pieces that are marked side, you're going to need those cut from a single piece of cardboard. These 2 pieces that are marked support, they're just slightly smaller than the side pieces. And this one long piece that you will eventually cut to size when the time comes. We will cut the other pieces out a little bit later. The first thing we're going to do is put the body of the vanity together. I'm going to take the back piece, which has 2 slanted sides, and I'm going to add glue to one of those slanted sides and add one of the side pieces onto it. I'm going to add the other side on the same way with some hot glue, and this is starting to create our vanity. Before I add the front piece, I need to add support pieces to the back under the drawer openings. So I'm just going to add some hot glue underneath each drawer opening, and I'm going to center as best as possible the support. This is what's going to hold up the drawer once the drawers go into the vanity. I'm going to have to do this twice, one under each drawer opening. After that's done, make sure they're as parallel as possible. This will make it easier for your drawers to go in and out. We are going to add it to the back part of the vanity by adding a little bit of glue onto the sides and gluing it all together. Once that's done, I'm adding a little bit more hot glue to the back of the support pieces, which I can still see because we haven't put the top and the bottom on this part yet. This is just going to help these stay in place and support your drawers. Now we're going to take that really long rectangle and we're going to cut it to size. So I'm just putting it in the opening that's left in my vanity. I'm going to mark with a pencil how big it needs to be, and then I cut it, and I'm just going to put some glue along the sides, and this is going to create the bottom of my vanity. I also need to do the same thing for the top. We will glue something on top of this later, but this is just going to finish out this entire vanity body piece, making everything really strong and sturdy. Remember, at this point, if anything isn't lining up just perfectly, we will be covering it with joint compound so you can even things out in a bit. Moving on to the next few steps, we're going to need these two T-shaped pieces, which will become your drawers. You will also need these 3 large rectangles. These are actually going to be glued together to make the top of your vanity. You need these 2 larger trapezoids and these 2 smaller trapezoids, which will be your drawer fronts. All of these pieces in this part of the video are cut from chipboard. First thing you're going to do is glue all 3 of these together. This is going to be the very top of your vanity, and by gluing them together you're just making them a little bit stronger. And I glue them together at the beginning so I can put something heavy on them and give them time to dry straight. Just making sure they're all lined up using tacky glue, and then I'm just going to put one of my 1, 2, 3 blocks on top of them. To create the drawers, you're going to take the T pieces, and on the pattern you will see where they are marked with fold lines. I'm using a straight edge here, and I'm putting it where the fold line needs to be, and I'm folding up the side. There are 3 sides that you need to fold up to complete the drawer. This is actually a pretty easy way to make drawers, so I'm pretty certain if you wanted to go back, if you hadn't made the bookcase yet for the living room, you could make drawers like this and insert them into that pattern. Once everything is folded and I'm making sure that they all match up, I'm going to glue both of the corners together, which will result in a box with one side open. I'm doing this with hot glue, but you can also do this with tacky glue. You will just have to hold it in place a little bit longer. Now I'm going to glue my drawer fronts together. There are 2 small trapezoids and 2 large trapezoids. You need to glue the 2 large trapezoids together and the 2 small trapezoids together. This is just giving them a double thickness so the drawer fronts are extra strong. Once they're glued together, you're ready to glue them to the drawers. The drawers themselves are the same size, but the drawer fronts are different sizes. The best way to make sure everything works is to center the drawers in the middle of the drawer fronts, no matter the size of the trapezoid. You want to make sure the long side of the trapezoid is at the top of the drawer because you want it to match the shape of the vanity, since it's kind of a trapezoid also. When your 3 rectangles that you glued together are dry, you can add them to the top of your vanity. I'm using hot glue here, but you can use tacky glue if you prefer. I'm just using it because hot glue goes a little bit faster. I'm making sure that it's centered so that I can see a little bit of the top peeking up over all of the edges. Once that's dry, I am test fitting my drawers. If they don't fit quite right, you can cut your drawer openings open just a little bit more. Go slow, don't cut off too much, but they should work fairly well. Now we're going to work on the mirror pieces that go at the top of the vanity. You need these two pieces that have different size circles cut into them. You need these two pieces that don't have circles cut in them at all. And you're going to need a few Q-tips or cotton swabs to make the thing that holds the mirror on either side. You're also going to need a little bit of foil and some plastic packaging. You can get these from like toys, or if you order something online, a lot of times it comes in plastic packaging. Now I had an idea for making some really interesting like knobs, like decorative knobs to go on furniture. And to do this, I wanted the shape of the Q-tip, but I knew the cotton on the Q-tip can't take paint. It would just kind of puff up. So what I decided to do was to first cover it in glue. So I put quite a bit of glue on the cotton swab to begin with. And now I am carefully just kind of rubbing my finger on it so that the glue spreads out and covers the cotton swab completely. After that, I'm going to let it harden completely, and I should be able to paint it and use the shape of the cotton swab as a knob. I'm going to be using this foil to create a faux mirror, and in order to do that, I'm taking the circle that I cut out of the largest hole, the big hole, and I'm going to take scissors and cut around, giving it even a little bit, it's just slightly larger than the large hole. I'm also going to add some glue onto one of the blank surfaces that doesn't have a hole, and I'm going to push down with the cutout piece. The reason for this is I don't want any finger marks on my foil. After that, I'm going to cut a plastic piece out that is the same size as one of the pieces that does not have a hole. And this is going to cover the foil. Foil is very easy to dent, so this is what's going to protect my fake mirror from getting dented. I'm going to take some glue, add it all around the foil. I try not to get it on the foil as much as possible, because if the glue squeezes out, it could ruin the look of the faux mirror. Then I'm going to take my plastic piece, put it on top, and this is going to sandwich the aluminum foil between the plastic and the chipboard piece. Now I'm going to take that same circle that I used as a template before and push down. Again, this is keeping fingerprints off of the plastic, and it keeps me from denting anything. I also put a weight on it so that I knew it dried completely. We are now going to put the mirror together from left to right. So I have one of those blank pieces that did not have a hole cut into it. I'm going to take the piece we just created the fake mirror on, and I'm going to glue that on top of that piece. Next, I'm going to take the piece with the small hole. I'm going to add a little bit of glue. I don't want to add too much because, again, this could squeeze out and kind of make my mirror all messy. If I do get glue near the hole, I just take my finger and gently wipe it away. Now I'm going to take this piece and put it on top of the mirror and press it down. After that's on, I'm going to take the larger piece and glue that on top. This one is the one with the larger hole cut out. Now, if you don't want the stair-step frame look that I'm going for here, you can cut out two pieces with the larger hole. You can cut out two pieces with the smaller hole. You can kind of play around with whatever design you want. You can even cut a heart shape out, have a heart-shaped mirror. Whatever you want, you can make this your own design. Now I'm going to add some weight on top of this and let it dry. Once everything's dry, I can take one of my Q-tips that I added glue onto the end and start cutting them to hold up my mirror on either side. I used hot glue to glue the Q-tips to either side of my mirror, and now I'm going to put it on my vanity and decide where it needs to go. Now you can put it in the center, which is what makes most sense. I actually put it a little off to the right, and that is because I'm okay with some asymmetry in my project, but also because I know where I'm putting it, there is a window right there. And so by putting the mirror off to the side a little bit, you will see more of the window. I marked off where the Q-tips are going to go into the top of the vanity. I used a sharp tool to punch into it, and then I used a pencil to make the holes a little bit wider until the Q-tips fit. And then I added some glue added them in, and now I have a mirror stuck to the top of my vanity. For the next step, I'm adding some more of the Q-tip pieces for feet. All I did to do this was punch a hole in the cardboard bottom of the vanity, and then I added some glue, put the Q-tip feet in, and let them dry. And in the spirit of not wasting too much of my materials, I used the center of those Q-tips I just cut to create handles for the drawer fronts. And just like the bed, I'm going to use the same exact cardstock cutouts because I want the two to correlate. So I'm just kind of playing around where I want them to be placed. I'm putting the leaves on the drawer fronts, and then I put the butterflies on the top of the vanity. I also made sure to rub the glue over them so it kind of incorporates them into the pieces. Before I do the next step, I want to make sure and take the drawers out so the drawers don't get cemented into the piece itself. I'm using some all-purpose joint compound to fill in anywhere I see gaps from the cardboard and making sure that all the sides are as smooth as possible. Now I'm using the same mixture I used on the bed. I'm going to be doing 2 coats of this, making sure that I also coat the Q-tips that I had previously hardened with glue. When I'm going around the mirror, I'm just making sure to be extra careful that I don't get anything on the mirror. I also let a little bit of the mixture pool at the base of the Q-tips that are holding up the mirror. This is going to help harden that area where it might be a little prone to breaking. I'm also putting the mixture on the front and the back of the drawer fronts, but I'm not putting it on the drawers themselves because I don't want them to get too chunky and not fit into the drawer openings. I'm going to be doing the same exact paint job on the vanity that I did for the bed because, again, I want the two to match and look like they come from the same set. And that's our vanity finished for the cardboard dollhouse with working drawers. I wanted to try one more thing with the plastic bags to really give it my best effort, and I thought the best way to do this would possibly be to make a rug. So what I'm doing here is I'm cutting the seam off of the bottom of the plastic bag, and then I'm cutting up the side so that I have a really long piece of plastic material. From that, I'm going to cut like 1.5 inch wide pieces, 1 to 1.5 inch wide pieces, all the way up so I have these really long strips of plastic material. Once I have several of those strips, I'm going to tape them down to my desk surface and start to twirl them. Now later on I find that I don't have to do this step first, but at this point I was just really trying to play with the material and figure out what I could create. If you guys have any other ideas of things I could make with plastic bags, I would love to hear. So now I'm going to take some more chipboard from some pasta box and I'm going to take a circular tracing object and trace around it to create a circle. Great voiceover, I know. I'm going to cut it out, and this is going to be the basis for creating my rug. To start out, I'm going to add a dot of hot glue right in the center, and I'm going to take this long strip that I have taped down, and I have the other end taped down behind me because it's really long, and I'm going to cut off any of the excess and then start twirling this long snake of plastic material around until it starts looking like a rug. I'm adding the hot glue as I go along. If I add too much, it'll dry out by the time I get there. So this is kind of a little bit time intensive, but honestly, probably not as time intensive as making like a real rug with fabric. It actually went fairly fast compared to that, but you do have to go back and forth with the hot glue and just be careful you don't burn your fingers as well. I do find that the hot glue can melt the plastic, so just be careful with that. Make sure you're not getting your hot glue gun directly onto the plastic itself. When I ran out of one string, I added another one, and then I decided to just twist as I went instead of trying to pre-twist it. I think either way works, but I probably saved myself, I don't know, 5 minutes by not pre-twisting it. When it's done, it looks like this, and I'm actually pretty surprised with how flat it turned out. I decided to just go with it and paint it with some acrylic paint. I'm not quite sure yet if I need some other kind of finish on top of it to keep it from cracking and the paint coming off, but so far it seems to be working okay. I went back and forth with several colors that I thought would go with the bedroom suite, and I started with black because all of the furniture I started with black, and then I built up some of the browns and then some white, and then I went back with a little bit more brown to make it look like an aged rug. And then I decided to paint some leaves on it, but because of the texture of the rug, I don't think it was coming across really well. So when I decided I didn't like that, I went back and I just mushed all the paint together and decided it was going to have some kind of circular stripe pattern on the rug itself that pulled in different colors from the room. So right at this point, I'm just kind of playing around with it, seeing what I could create. But in the end, I'm pretty happy with it. And yeah, if you guys think of any other materials I need to try out that are household and easy to get to, recyclable materials, I would love to hear, because this challenge really brought in a new element, I think. Here's the finished items from working on the cardboard house bedroom. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you make any of these, make sure you tag me on Instagram at Bentley House Minis. I have loved so much seeing you guys' creations. I think our next room we're going to tackle is the itty bitty tiny kitchen that doesn't have a lot of room for anything. Oh yeah, and stay tuned for the rocking chair video, which will be going up this weekend. So make sure you're subscribed so you see that. I hope you guys have a great week. Show some kindness, show some love in your community, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye!